Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Occult Think Tank. My name is Greg. In this video, I am going to be talking about something that does tie in with the video I did yesterday on free will versus determinism. But this will be on SSRI drugs and mass shootings. It is important to note right off the top that these SSRI drugs are used to treat depression. Yet these SSRI drugs cause, as their side effects, first we have anxiety, but if it would just be anxiety, that would be bad enough. But then we get into violent thoughts and violent actions, as well as suicidal thoughts, suicide, criminal behavior, paranoia, and last, psychosis. I will get into the aspect of what psychosis is a little bit later. But this is a very serious subject, and it is something that does tie in with the aspect of free will versus determinism, because if you are taking a medication that can cause, as a side effect, criminal behavior, and it is altering your mind in such a way that you have violent thoughts or suicidal thoughts, that means it is altering your brain in a way that it creates thoughts that may not be your own. Which brings in the aspect of, are you responsible for something, for actions that you do, when those actions were caused by the drug that you were taking to treat depression? Or, even worse, that it could be used for trying to quit smoking, which was in my case. But here's another that gets into possible side effects of SSRI drugs: appetite loss or increase, weight gain or weight loss, nausea, diarrhea, decreased libido, and so forth. The vivid dreams, let me touch on that for a minute, because when I took Chantix to try and quit smoking, it did cause, to use the term, vivid dreams. They were wild. They were violent as hell. I remember that. The bad thing about Chantix, at least with me, I don't remember much or most of what I did when I was on Chantix. That, to me, is the most disturbing part of this. But I had stopped taking it when I had thoughts of suicide that come literally out of nowhere. And my girlfriend at the time, the one that has passed away, when I told her, she flushed them down the toilet. She was not having any of that. But I have reached and realized that what I go along with is more of a soft determinism. Soft determinism holds that we can have free will even if the future is determined, for we are free and responsible for our actions as long as these actions are caused in the right way. I would question if something being caused by an SSRI drug is to use the term in the right way. I would contend it's not in the right way, because to my brain and the way I'm thinking, an action, your actions that you're responsible for would have to be caused by your own choice without any chemical influence whatsoever. Anything altering your mind diminishes your ability for what I would say is responsibility for your actions. But by the same token, if somebody is drunk and driving, yes, the alcohol is diminishing their cognitive abilities, but they're responsible for getting behind the wheel in the first place. So I'm a bit conflicted on the aspect of determinism and free will, because I do feel as a society we absolutely need to have the idea of free will. But there are things that, mitigating circumstances, that would have me questioning if something was more determined by a drug or whatnot. Especially if somebody is taking a drug like I was to try and quit smoking, and as a result, an unexpected result, having very dark thoughts to suicidal thoughts of basically life being pointless. The thing is, some of the side effects, I'm going to be having this web page that I'm reading from in the description bar below if you want to look at the whole thing. I'm not going to cover the entire page, but I want to draw to your attention this section on SSRI can increase the risk of violence against others. Some of the side effects caused by SSRIs can increase the risk of violence against others. Perhaps the most risky, emotionally blunting, or detachment have been linked to SSRI used, and many people who have taken the drugs report not feeling or not caring about anything. There's also been established causal relationship between SSRI and the SSRI use and psychosis and hallucination, which are known to increase the risk of violence in individuals. Now, before I go any further, I want to just clarify for everybody what is psychosis. The word psychosis is used to describe conditions that affect the mind where there has been some loss of contact with reality. When someone becomes ill in this way, it is called a psychotic episode. During a period of psychosis, a person's thoughts and perceptions are disturbed, and the individual may have difficulty understanding what is real and what is not. Excuse me. Symptoms of psychosis include delusions, and they have in parentheses false beliefs, and hallucinations, seeing and hearing things that others do not see or hear. Other symptoms including incoherent or nonsense speech and behavior that is inappropriate for the situation. A person in a psychotic episode may also experience depression, anxiety, sleep problems, social withdrawal, lack of motivation, difficulty functioning overall. I have a bit of an issue with the aspect of delusions and false beliefs. because that ties into when I had my battle with the Army on the subject of aliens and and missing time. Now, I recognize what I was saying is an argument from ignorance. The I don't know so X is an argument from ignorance. However, what I had pointed out in the 10-page report that I wrote for the Army on the subject of delusional disorder, I broke down a list of symptoms of delusional disorder, and I answered the checklist in two different ways. One as an atheist talking about aliens, and the other as a religious person. And what I made crystal clear in that was the things that were called delusions or false beliefs when it came to the subject of aliens were openly called. These are delusions. But when you have the same thing and it is put in a religious context, then it is just called, oh, the person's religious. That is called a double standard. It is one of the aspects that got me medically cleared in an hour and a half. The thing is, what makes a belief false is questionable, because can you definitively prove that the belief someone has is in fact false? I contend you could say at most it is extremely unlikely. But to say that their experience or their belief is characteristically false, it's a touchy area to be on, because when it comes to religion, what I would regard as a false belief, the religious would regard as part of their quote-unquote faith. So you can't have two standards in a society. That double standards do not work, because what it is showing is there is a bias. The thing is, when we're dealing with a drug that does cause what would be termed false beliefs or inaccurate beliefs, especially when that drug is used to treat depression, or worse, that it is simply about the person's not dealing with depression, they're just trying to quit smoking. Because one of the things, and this is the reason I'm focusing on this section, is it does mention the drug Chantix. But researchers concluded that violence against others was a genuine and serious adverse drug event, and that of the 484 medications, the drugs that were most consistently and strongly associated with violence were with the smoking cessation medications. This is something that I find very disturbing. That what we have is the drugs that were most consistently and strongly associated with violence were the smoking cessation medications. And it specifically mentions Chantix, which is what I had been taking when I had the incident that caused my girlfriend to just throw the pills away. The thing is, I didn't have what would be termed a psychotic episode. I was at work And out of nowhere, I had a wave of thoughts of life is pointless and so forth. And I am introspective enough that I was able to look at it and say something, I could analyze myself and be something isn't right. There's something wrong. I knew something was wrong. The thing is, if somebody isn't as introspective as I am, they might not even have noticed or picked up on something is wrong and would have simply acted on the thoughts that would have come because of that drug, which can make for very dangerous outcomes. The thing is, this is a very lengthy article, but it goes into the aspect of mass shootings. And mass shootings, yes, they're a tragedy. But the media fills with psychiatrists who say that individuals do not seek the help they need and that are with the proper treatment, the tragedy may be prevented. But research doesn't support that philosophy. In fact, depression in particular doesn't lead to violence. Yet the increase in SSRI antidepressants being widely prescribed, the rise in mass shootings has increased right along with it. And evidence shows that many mass shooters were either taking or had recently taken SSRI drugs. And they give some examples of people that are known to either had been taking or just stopped taking SSRI drugs. And it goes back to '89. But it goes through and names a bunch. And I will have this link in the description section below, but I do want to point out the 2001 Andrea Yates drowned all 5 of her children. She was taking epinephrine and was suffering from delusions about satanic possession. The murder of her children led epinephrine. The murder of her children led epinephrine to the homicidal thoughts in the medication side effects. Although it's a rare side effect manifesting in 1 in 1,000 patients. Over 19 million prescriptions were written and filled in 2005. That's an estimated 19,000 people suffering from homicidal thoughts because of the medication. That is a very large number of people. 1 in 1,000 patients have this, and over 19 million prescriptions were written and filled in 2005. You can't ignore the effects and act like it's all the gun when you have the drugs like this, like are mentioned here, Prozac, so forth, that directly can have a direct correlation to the actions that these people were taking. Because it meant in 2008, this Stephen, whatever the hell his last name is, was prescribed Prozac, Xanax, and Ambien, a sleeping medication, for 3 weeks before walking into North Illinois University, killing 6 people and wounding 21, with 3 pistols. And he had stopped taking the antidepressants because it was making him feel like a zombie. I would question, did he stop taking them soon enough? Or is there something else that could be potentially linked? And the aspect of the SSRI drugs. It's far from conclusive that the drugs can be ignored. I don't think they can be. The effect of them, I think, is something that people need to be aware of. But this is a very lengthy article, but it is one that is well worth looking at, because there is definitely a media-driven narrative regarding mass shootings. And the antidepressants and SSRI drugs seems to get, at least as far as the media is concerned, gets a pass. And I don't think it should. Especially when, like in my case, I wasn't being treated for depression. It was all about trying to quit smoking. Because if trying to quit smoking means that you could have these thoughts that are criminal behavior or even suicidal thoughts, and it's being caused by a drug that the reason you're taking it is to try and quit smoking, it comes down to basically what my girlfriend and I had decided, or what she decided and I went along with, was it's better for me to smoke and be the person that I naturally am than to be on a drug and potentially lash out in a way that is just not normal for me. Yes, it is better, in that case, it is better to smoke than to try and take something like Chantix. This is why I have adopted more of a soft determinist position, because I still hold that we are responsible for our actions, but at the same time, I do think we can't ignore the side effects of different drugs that are being pumped out and prescriptions being written and so forth as if they're candy. These drugs are not candy. They're not something that should just be given. And this is also something that I was concerned about regarding the depression that I had felt over the death of my ex. It is the biggest reason why I didn't try talking to anyone in a professional setting. And I won't at all. I'm fine now, but the thing is, the reason I wouldn't is it is more than likely the knee-jerk reaction would be pump drugs into me, as if drugs are the answer. Not that the issue was the death of somebody, that it's a grieving process. No, that's not their first go-to. The medical industry isn't interested in treating the actual problem. They're interested in their Band-Aid. And they like their Band-Aid because it makes them money. Let's just be crystal clear on their motivation. It is not helping people. It is in getting as much money into their fucking pocket as they can get. And consequences be damned. I have a very low opinion of the medical community because of the aspect of pushing drugs. I had said, and I will say to my dying day, that doctors are nothing more than legalized drug dealers, because they don't try to treat the symptom. They don't try to treat the actual cause. They look at what medications can we pump into this person, and they will just willy-nilly, well, let's try this one, and then be, oh, that didn't work, let's try this other drug, when maybe the answer isn't a drug at all, that there is another solution that doesn't involve doping someone up. But the medical community doesn't give a fuck about that, because that doesn't bring them money. And that's the real issue. That's what really the bottom line is. It's all about the money. That's just the way our society is. And until that changes, we're not going to see an end to things like depression or whatnot, because sometimes it's not a matter of pumping a drug into somebody. It's a matter of addressing what is actually causing the depression. Doing the, to use the term, psychiatric work or analysis of somebody when they're not doped out of their mind. But our society doesn't give a damn about that. It makes me very disgusted with our world, especially when what is being done, these mass shootings and so forth, they're taking the lives of innocent people, and the actions are horrible. But I question how much of it was that person wanting to do it and how much of it was the drug that they were given. I don't, like I've said, I don't think you can completely dismiss the drug and just push it off on, well, the person is responsible for their actions. That the drug altering their mind would definitely bear some responsibility. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Talk to you later, people.